Good morning. Thank you so much for having me, Christabel.
You're welcome. And firstly, would you like to explain a little bit about your role and career journey so far?
Sure. So my name is Jasmine Dotiwala. I'm what we call a multimedia broadcaster, which basically is just a way of saying I work across lots of different types of media. I work mainly in television, that's my main thing, but I also dabble a little bit in radio. I also have media columns in print press. I have lots of digital media strings to my bow. So it just means that I do a lot of different things in the media industry. I work for TV companies who are public service broadcasters. So by public service broadcasters, we mean the main TV channels, the BBC, ITV, Channel 4, 5 and Sky. That's what we refer to as the public service broadcasters, PSBs. But then I also work for the SVODs, and the SVODs are streaming video on demand. You probably don't call it that. You probably call it Netflix, Amazon, Disney, etc. So I work across those various different places, and it's just really exciting because they're all the same skill set. You know, if you can talk on television, you can talk on radio, if you can write for a digital column, write a script, they're all skills that are really just connected. And I started off, I was born and brought up in West London, so I was born in Wembley. Then my parents split up when I was about 6 or 7, and so my dad stayed in Harlesden and my mum stayed in Southall. And if you're not familiar with those areas, they're very working class, they're very multicultural. They used to be known for being quite poor. There weren't very many, opportunities for young people like me that came from where I came from. You know, I'm a Zoroastrian. I don't know if any of you have heard of a Zoroastrian. So my religious culture is Persian. Freddie Mercury is probably the most famous Zoroastrian. It's basically the word and the religion that comes from Persia. So before Iran became Iran, it used to be called a country called Persia. When Persians were there, we had a religion called Zoroastrianism, and the people from there are called Parsis. So I'm a Parsi Zoroastrian, but now Persia is Iran and the people that come from there are Muslim. So they're both very different countries and very different cultures. So that's my background. As a child, when my parents split up, I mentioned to you that they split up when I was 6 or 7. I was thrown around in lots of after school clubs because my mum would be at work and she didn't want me like running around on the streets and getting up to mischief when I was younger. So I used to go to everything from netball to athletics to choir practice, even though I could not sing and cannot sing. It was just a way to keep me entertained and out of trouble. I went to Girl Scouts, Girls Brigade, you name it, I did it. I went to a local weekend ballet school where we did ballet, tap and jazz. So my mum just threw me into lots and lots of different things to make sure I was occupied while she was at work. At school, I did GCSEs, the regular subjects like English and maths, drama, geography, PE. I loved all the very sociable subjects. And then I was going to go off and do some work, but my teacher said, "Oh, you really love drama and stuff, don't you? You know, you can do A-levels in subjects like that." So I wasn't going to do A-levels, but I kind of fell into it because I had a teacher that believed that I was good at something and pushed me on to that next road, even though my drama teacher always said to my mum at parents' evening that I would never ever work in media because brown girls from working class backgrounds didn't work in the media industry and that I should think of something more realistic. So it's always really funny now when he asks me to go back and speak to the school or speak to his drama class. I say, don't listen to what he tells you, because whatever you want to do, you can do. So, just keep that hope and dream alive. And then after my GCSEs and my A-levels, my A-level subjects were theatre, media and communications and dance. God, I had to think about that. It was so long ago. Similarly, I had the same thing happen to me. There was a teacher who said to me, "Oh, I know you're thinking about going to work next, but you can do a degree in those subjects." And I wasn't going to think about doing a degree just because people from where I lived didn't really do degrees. And I thought, oh, is it really for me? And can I afford not to start work immediately? But then once again, a great teacher saw some potential and said, no, you can do a degree in those subjects. So I went ahead and did the same subjects for my degree, and I went to Roehampton University. At the time, it was called Roehampton Institute. And then in the very final year, we had to apply for work experience, which I'm sure many of you have had the experience of having to try to get. And I wrote off loads of letters. I mean, when I say loads, I mean, it's not like today with you guys when you have emails, a quick email, fling it over and it's free. In my day, we didn't have emails. I know, can you imagine that? So we had to actually type out letters onto real hard copies of paper, fold them up, put them in envelopes, find stamps for them, post them off to the right address for the TV companies. I mean, can you imagine how much research and work and money it cost to do that? So I must have sent off, honestly, about 70 letters, because I remember having a book and it said TV production companies in the UK, and I must have written the same letter to all of them. And I think I got about a handful of replies, maybe 5, and they're all obviously rejection letters saying thank you for your interest, we'll keep your details on file, and should something come up we'll get in touch. And then one company came back and said we may have work experience for you in the summer if you're interested. And so that's why I always say to younger people when I talk to them, you may send off hundreds of applications, they all come back negatively, but it only takes one positive yes to get your foot through the door. So I did get my foot through the door, and it was to be a runner. I don't know if many of you know what a runner is in television or in the media industry. It's just someone who is a junior at the company. They run around being helpful to the staff. So whether that's making cups of teas or coffees, meeting and greeting people when they arrive, maybe you're photocopying scripts, or maybe you're doing some research for them. A runner is just basically another word. We used to call it a general dog's body. And I know that sounds really derogatory, but we used to love it because you get to go around every different department in the company. You know, one day you might be in the TV studio, the next day you might be in an edit suite, the next day you might be on an outdoor shoot, on a broadcast. So being a runner is a great job because it gets you to meet lots of different people, look at different departments and go, what do I like? Which bit really excites me? So that was a really great experience. And then the same company, so I didn't tell you what the show was. So the TV company was called Planet 24. And in the 90s, they made 2 huge shows. One was called The Big Breakfast on Channel 4. You may have seen that recently Channel 4 have resurrected it again, and Mo Gilligan and AJ Adudu are presenting it. So I was a runner on that show in the 90s. So The Big Breakfast, really colourful breakfast show. Really early. I had to get there at like 4 in the morning. I had to get the 2 presenters, who were Chris Evans and Gabby Roslin. It was my job as a runner to make sure their breakfast was ready, to make sure the showers were ready, their hot towels were fluffy and ready for them. I remember even to today what they liked for their breakfast, you know, wholemeal bread with a spread of honey and an Earl Grey tea. So it was my job to basically make sure everything on set was ready, all the props, the guests were meted and greeted, as we call them, meet and greets. And yeah, I really loved being a runner. It was exciting. You got to see what everybody did in the studio. And then one of the floor managers was going on holiday late summer, and they said to me, would you like to step up and be a floor assistant? And a floor assistant just basically makes sure that everyone is in their places, your floor manager is supported, the camera crew are ready. It might be something like making a cup of tea for a cameraman, or it might be something as big as helping research a script. So that was a really great first break for me. I got to really experience what television was about. And then the same company made a show called The Word, which was on Channel 4 on a Friday night. Some of your teachers who are old enough may remember this. You definitely won't because you weren't born at the time. But The Word was, oh, how can I describe it? It was a pop culture show, late night on a Friday. In fact, where you now see Mo Gilligan's show on Channel 4, that was the exact slot that I had. So it was music, it was celebrity guests and pop stars and film stars, and I was the roving reporter on The Word. So I went all over the world and I did interviews with people who were brand new that no one had heard of at the time. People like Snoop Doggy Dogg. He's now called Snoop Dogg, but back then he was Snoop Doggy Dogg. People like Mary J. Blige, Aaliyah, the singer, the film star Jean-Claude Van Damme and Arnold Schwarzenegger. So that was a really exciting time in my life. So I was on The Word as a runner stroke dancer, because I also used to dance at Pineapple Dance Studios, and they'd say, we've got Snoop Dogg performing, would you like to dance in the background with your cousin, and it wasn't like the kind of sexy dancing that you see now. It was kind of dance routines, running man and a bit of a big leap and a jump in the air. So we used to get paid £30 for 3 minutes to dance behind them, and to me that was big money in the 90s. And then they were looking for a new presenter on the same show, and they said, would you audition for it? And I was like, oh no, I don't want to be a presenter, because, you know, my teacher's words from my drama school kept coming back to me, and I kept thinking, oh no, that's not a job that people like me do. So I kept saying, no, I didn't want to be a presenter. I was completely out of my depth. And then my boss at the time said to me after the big breakfast one morning, hey, I need you to step in for something. We've got some auditions happening for the new presenter of The Word next week at Channel 4. He said we had 6 finalists and we're going to pair them up into twos and have them doing things facing each other. And he said one of the finalists has dropped out. He said, I understand you did drama at college. Would you mind stepping in? Don't worry, you'll just be stepping in and filling in. And I was like, oh yeah, sure. I didn't even think that they were setting me up, and it was a setup, because yeah, I'd originally said no. And the next thing, a couple of months later, I got another email at work and it said, hey Jazz, after the big breakfast finishes today, can you please come and see Charlie, who was our boss? Can you come and see Charlie in his office? Now, I thought, oh my God, the only time a runner would go up and see Charlie in the office was if they were being fired. And at the time, I thought I was being fired because one of our presenters, Paula Yates, she's passed away now, but she was a big presenter in the 90s. And Paula Yates used to have huge flowers in her dressing room every morning. And it was my job to get rid of the old flowers and put the new ones in. But they'd only been there for 24 hours. And I used to think, oh my God, these flowers must have cost so much. Instead of binning them, I'm going to take them home for my mum. So I used to take the flowers home for my mum. And I thought Charlie was calling me into his office to fire me. And so he paces around and he says, okay, Jazz, I need you to go to your desk and I need you to clear it. And my heart's beating and I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm getting fired. And he said, I need you to leave the building. Oh my God, I'm literally breaking out into a sweat. And then he says, I need you to find yourself a solicitor. And I'm thinking, oh my God, you're going to fire me and take me to court because I've stolen flowers. And then he said, because you're the next presenter of The Word. And it was just so weird. I was like, I don't understand what's going on. What do you mean? And so basically they'd set me up. I'd covered for the audition. I was now the new presenter of The Word, and I was going around filming with all these stars around the world. And, you know, now they're big names, but back then they were just starting out. So that was an incredible first couple of breaks. Then when The Word came to an end, I got a job at MTV. I was asked to come in for a chat about an MTV News presenter role. And back then we didn't have MTV UK, MTV Spain, MTV France. The whole of Europe was one big MTV channel. And we used to read the MTV news bulletins in sequined dresses all day long. We didn't have auto cues to read the words off. I don't know if you know, when the camera has all the script written and it's rolling, it's called an auto cue. So we didn't have auto cues. We had cards with our whole script on them. So we had to memorize and learn them. So that was a very wild, fun ride at MTV. I was there for 13 years. I started off, as I said, as a presenter. Then I realized that the presenter, even though you became famous very quickly and people wanted to take photos with you, it wasn't where the power was. The power was, who should we interview, which stars should we speak to, who should write the script? And I wanted to decide to write the script, and I wanted to decide who I wanted to interview and what the camera would look like. So then I started doing more things as a producer presenter, just, you know, going to the producer, or can I write my own questions for this, or can I come out with you on this shoot, or can I help choose the next playlist or whatever. So I became a producer presenter. Then I wanted to direct my own shots because I'd be going to all these incredible hip hop and R&B shows, and the camera guys that I used to work with were used to going to rock shows. So they would be shooting and the camera would be going like that, like really like it would be at a rock gig. And I'd be like, guys, this is R&B. this is Mary J. Blige, this is Aaliyah, it's much smoother. So I was like, maybe I need to direct my own stuff. So then I started becoming a director, and eventually I was head of MTV News International. And then for my last 5 years at MTV, I was the head of MTV Bass and MTV Dance, where I got to shape exactly what MTV's music channels look like. I brought in a whole load of new presenters. A few of them are household names now, so you might have heard of people like Reggie Yates, Ricky and Melvin, Kojo, the comedian who was on Britain's Got Talent. So we brought in a whole load of new presenters and just changed and shaped the way that MTV back then looked. After I left MTV, I went back to Channel 4, did a few music specials with them, launched a few new music programs with ITV and the BBC. And then I had an incredible 10 years working at a charity called the Media Trust. And I say it's a charity, but actually it was fabulous because the Media Trust are a charity that sit at the crossroads of all the big media companies and then also young people like yourselves, communities and charities. And it meant that I was speaking to young people like you all across the country. I was training them up in TV production skills and digital and radio podcasting, because what my boss had said to me once was, well, we can do some work experience with young people from working class backgrounds in television, but we can't give them jobs because they won't be good enough. You know, the people that come from Oxford and Cambridge are the ones that get the jobs. And I thought, that's interesting, because I didn't come from Oxford and Cambridge. How could I make people like me who come from backgrounds like me, working class backgrounds, how could I make them better than Oxford and Cambridge? And so I thought, it's really not that difficult. Everything I learned in the first 5 years of my TV career, I then made a program, a training program for 6 months, where I taught 100 young people from all across the country how to be in TV production. So we had intense 2 weeks on shooting, editing, Ofcom and compliance, legal, what makes a good story, music for television. I mean, I compressed everything into 6 months. For the first 3 months, young people like yourselves all learnt and did the training, and we operated like a normal newsroom. So exactly the way I work at BBC News or Channel 4 News, I made sure that our young people were pitching stories and creating stories, and eventually their content became so good that for the last 3 months of their training, they were delivering an actual TV programme to Sky and lots of partners like ITV and the BBC. So it proved to me that young people that come from backgrounds like me can be great business propositions for TV companies. And then this was the golden bit. TV companies started to come to us at Media Trust for more new young talent to start working at runners in their companies than they were going to Oxford and Cambridge. Because the Oxford Cambridge young people were very smart, very good at theory, but my young people were doing it. They were creating, they were shooting, they were editing. They could make 3-minute television and turn that TV into a radio podcast and turn that radio podcast into TikToks and Instagram and tweets. And so very, very valuable for a TV company. So that was my next bit of my journey. And then during the pandemic in the first year, 2020, I got a call from Netflix saying that they would like to speak to me about something very exciting they were doing with young people, bringing in young people from various backgrounds, people that they didn't have in their company before. So, you know, my job has consisted of working at lots of different media companies, finding businesses, lots of new young talent like yourselves, and showing them what they can do with hard skills and soft skills. And we know that young people like you can add so much value to a TV company or a media company's values. So it's just been a really exciting time. So today that's what my job consists of. Sometimes I'm behind the camera doing producing, editing, directing, and getting young people from backgrounds to come and work with us. And at other times I'm in front of the camera doing Sky News or the Jeremy Vine show or Channel 4 News. I do lots of arts and culture reports for people like that too. So it's a really exciting career that I've got now. I call it a portfolio career, because I think once you've been in the industry a long time, you can juggle lots of things that you enjoy doing. So I guess that's my journey.
Thank you, Jasmine. That was absolutely fascinating. Loads of points that I really thought about, especially when you were talking about people saying, "Oh no, this job isn't for you," and you absolutely said to them, "Well, I'll show you. Let me show you that I can work in the media industry." And whenever you thought, actually, it could be done better, you went ahead and you produced shows that you wanted to see. So I just wanted to go back to school, and you mentioned that you wrote lots of letters to TV production companies. What was it when you were thinking about school, life after school, what was it that made the TV industry stand out to you and apply there?
Do you know, I think it was just because I had done my A-levels and my degree in media, and I'd been in a TV studio with big cameras, and I loved the idea of shot calling, you know, camera 1, switch to camera 2, now coming to camera 5. I just loved the excitement of a live event. And if you think about the fact that working in media or television, it's like I do for work what most normal people call fun. So normal people work in offices all day, they come home, they go, oh, I'll relax in front of the telly, or I'll go to a music festival. I call that stuff work. I mean, it's the most attractive job in the world, isn't it?
Yes, that sounds so exciting, particularly when you were working in the 90s on, working for Channel 4 on The Word. Absolutely phenomenal show. I remember seeing clips of it and thinking, wow, this is so exciting. So with regards to the media industry, in your opinion, how has the media industry changed since the start of your career?
I think it's changed because back then we didn't have the internet, and the internet changed everything. You know, we would have to call up on the phone. Young people, you may ask your parents about this, but we used to have a telephone directory, which was a thick book called Yellow Pages, and we would flick through it to find people to talk to. Whereas now you can just go to the internet and on Twitter or Instagram put a hashtag and put journo request, which means journalist request, and you can find anyone. If you're looking for someone who is a specialist Italian cook that cooks with juggling balls, or you're looking for a serious spokesperson on the climate industry, or you're looking for a young person that can talk about feminism and rights, you can find anything on the internet. So I think the main ways it's changed is it's much quicker. We can find talent much easier. It's very data driven. I think back in the day, the people who used to create television used to think, well, we'll just put on things that we like. So TV was very intellectual, it was very middle class, it was very white. And now it caters for everyone, because we know that people can immediately go on Twitter and say, we want to see a show about this, we want to see a show about that. And the data that comes through shows that things like, Mo Gilligan's show or the Big Nasty Show, for example, they might be led by a young black working class man, but they feature lots of people from lots of different communities, and everyone loves to see all of that mix and dynamic energy together, because that's how we live, don't we, in this country? We do have neighbours that come from different cultures and different classes to us. We do go to school with different people. So it's, the same in television. The things that work are the things that bring people together. So I think the ways it's changed is data has made everything much stronger. It means it's more inclusive. We are run by digital and AI. So, for example, things like Instagram now, you have to be a certain age. And I was looking at some testing platforms last week where if people sign up for different social media platforms like TikTok, in the future, they're going to look at your face via your camera, and the AI robot will be able to tell how old you are. So if you're not old enough, it won't let you set an account up, or it won't let you, put live TikToks up. So it's a really clever way that the internet has changed digitally the way the media works.
That's amazing how fast technology has transformed the media industry. And I agree that it's very fast right now. So with regards to working in the media, What kind of skills do you think are necessary to work in the media, and can you transfer them from platform to platform, job to job?
Sure. I mean, I think when you work in the media, the thing to remember is normally no 2 days are the same, because the media is dealing with real life events and things change all the time. You might think one morning at 10 o'clock I'm interviewing a politician, at 3 p.m. I'm interviewing a pop star. Suddenly that all goes up in the air because someone's ill or someone else can't make it or someone's running a couple of hours late. So the skills that you have to have in the media are you able to take change? Do you get flustered when things suddenly change or don't go to plan, or do you just take it all in your stride? Because let's face it, I think I mean, I am definitely a bit of a control freak. I like to have lists and I like to know what time I'm doing everything, but often that goes out of the window, and can you quickly change? So I think one skill is to be flexible and adaptable. Like we were in COVID, you all went from real life lessons in the classroom to lessons online. It's about being malleable and changeable. So can you be moving with events that are shifting? And then other skills I think are necessary to work in the media. You have to talk to lots of people. So are you comfortable speaking to people? Do you like asking questions? So one of my school reports always used to say, in my English class, I used to chat a lot, the teacher would always say, Jasmine gets her work done quickly, but then talks a lot and distracts the other children. She's a real chatterbox and she needs to, whatever. And the thing is, that is what a journalist is. A journalist is someone who likes to talk a lot, someone who is quite nosy, right? So at school, they used to say negative things like chatterbox, nosy, and maybe even a gossip, right? But these are the skills you need to work in the media. Professionally, we say great speaker, public speaker, curious, and likes to spread news. So skills like talking, listening. I mean, working in the media, you have to really listen and you really have to think critically. So I think a lot of us see things on social media or in newspapers and we immediately believe the headlines, and then you read the story and you go, oh, the headline doesn't really match that story. So being a critical thinker and going, are people trying to manipulate my thoughts, or should I be thinking deeper into this? So lots of skills around curiosity and being interested in people, liking to speak to people, and just being really flexible with things changing. Because honestly, in media, things change all the time. It's really exciting, but you mustn't get into an anxiety panic if things change, because they will.
Absolutely. Got to be adaptable, excuse me, and a great communicator, thinking critically as well. So with regards to these skills, do you think students should study certain subjects in order to enhance these skills?
Do you know, I remember when I was about 15, around the ages of 15 to 20, I spent so much time with my friends worrying about the subjects that I would take. And when it came to colleges and degrees, we worried so much about which colleges to go to and which subjects to study. And honestly, it's wild, because no one since I started work ever has asked me which college or uni I went to, or which subjects I did my degree in, or what grades I got. And it's wild when I look back and I think, we worried about it so much, and we said, do I need to do this subject to get into this industry? And I mean, look, I know people in the media who come from completely unrelated education. You know, some people were studying history or English lit, none of them did media or communications. It honestly doesn't matter. I think the only time your subjects matter are if you're doing very specialist career profiles, like coding, for example. If you're going in to be a scientist, you might need you'll need the science degrees, right? If you're doing anything around data, you might need, and engineering, you might need to learn how to code. But honestly, for media, I see people with degrees, loads of people without degrees, and especially now, I think so much now doesn't require a degree, because there are hundreds of organisations who give free training once you've left school and college that will train you and help pipeline you into so many different media industries. And I've seen young people, there was a young girl that I trained 5 years ago, Janae, who went from working with me to being an intern at Sony Music. Then she was an assistant for someone at the BBC, and now she is the events manager at TikTok, and she's 21 and she never did a degree. And I remember having this conversation with her at the time because she was distraught. Should I do a degree? Shouldn't I? I don't want a debt. I want to do another 3 years learning. So honestly, it's different for everyone.
Absolutely. So it's all about whether or not you choose to study a degree or not, just to show that you do have the skills that you mentioned in your application. So the critical thinking, the adaptable, the good communicator, no matter what course you end up doing, or whether or not you go to university. So that's really, really useful to know. Thank you. So just to go a little bit more into work experience for our young people, do you have any? We've posted some links in the Q&A. So do you want to go through any particular links and sort of highlight any organisations that students can go to?
Sure. Before that, I just wanted to also say, if you don't have work experience on your CV, and you're finding it difficult to get into there, the thing that really impresses us when we look at your CV is, have you been doing lots of other activity? So for example, anything like a summer job or a Christmas job or a weekend job, whether you're bar staff or you're a volunteer at a local charity, all of those things impress us because we say this is someone who already has a bit of a professional outlook on life. They're going out there, they're understanding business hours, they're understanding how to work with, people in the community, even if it's competitions or, we see lots of young people do things like work at their local radio station or their hospital radio station, or we see lots of young people volunteering at theatres or music events. Anything that gets you out there, that shows you're active and doing things, mean that we will look at your CV in a different light to someone who's not. And so some of the organisations that I would really recommend that you look at, so some of these organisations are all around the country, and some of them are London based, some of them are London, Manchester, some of them are very big city based. So check them all out, they're very different. One of them, which is all across the country, is Creative Access. Creative Access helps young working class people from underrepresented backgrounds get into the industry. There's another one called Screen Skills. Now, if you want to work in TV or film, I cannot recommend enough that you look at the Screen Skills website, because so often I get students saying to me, oh, I might go and do a producer's course or pay to do a presenter's or a reporter's course. If there's one thing you take from me today, is you don't have to pay for anything, because it's all out there free, and it exists at organisations who are there to help you with this content. So Screen Skills, on their website, they've got everything. It's like a maze and a tunnel. There are various descriptions of different jobs. There are different routes into the industry. There are skills that you need for each job. They even have teacher planning sessions where teachers at schools can help their young people do whole classes in TV production. They're really simple. They're all online. You can just download them all. Screen Skills gets funded very well to supply all this information to you. So go and have a look around and see if any of those jobs sound exciting to you. Then there's, of course, Media Trust, where I spent 10 years. And Media Trust are an incredible organisation. As I said, they help young people skill up and get trained. They match you with a mentor from all the different companies. So Media Trust sit with TV companies, radio, advertising, marketing, and they, after training you, will match you with a mentor. Some mentorships are a month, some are 6 months, some are 1 year, but it means that you've got someone in the industry constantly by your side, helping you with CVs, helping you write cover letters, helping doing interview practice, and sometimes they even help, segue you and pipeline you into companies that they have contacts with. So they're really exciting. Then there are places that are London based, like if you're a London school. So you've got places like Liberty in South London. You've got the Roundhouse in Camden. The Roundhouse has TV studios, radio podcasting studios. In West London or out towards Middlesex, you've got the Global Academy in Hayes. I mean, all of these places are instrumental in helping young people train up for free all across the board. So you might want to be a cameraman or a camerawoman or a researcher, a director, a reporter. They do intense training and it's all available out there for you for free. So absolutely get involved. There's never a reason why you have to pay for any training.
Wow, that's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing all of those very useful links to these organisations, and they'll be in the Q&A chat. We've got time for a few student questions. So one of the questions from Bishop Justice School is, what's your favourite thing about your job?
Oh, wow. I mean, I love everything. You know what I couldn't think of is what's the worst thing? Because actually, as I keep saying, I do for a job what most people call fun. So my favourite thing about my job is every day is different. One day you could be on a red carpet in Leicester Square at a film premiere. The next minute you could be on a private jet with Mariah Carey travelling and doing a video diary. I mean, and also, you know, most days you could be on the road speaking to Joe Blogs and doing Vox Pops, asking questions, and it's all really fun. And I always say that when you work in the media industry, you have a job where you get access to really unique people and places that money can't buy. So even if you were the richest person in the world, they wouldn't have been able to buy the experiences that I've had. You know, I've spent, as I said, I've been on a private jet with Mariah Carey numerous times filming video diaries. The same with Beyonce and Jay-Z and Destiny's Child. I have done interviews with Stormzy. So people whose music I love, I get to experience and hang out with and call it work. I've also spent time in South Africa with Will Smith and President Mandela at the time and Oprah Winfrey. And you know, it's just mind-blowing. These are icons that I've grown up loving, people whose music I've loved, people whose films I've loved, and I get to work with them, speak to them, make content about them. I mean, yeah, I love everything about my job.
That's amazing how you have met all of these incredibly influential people, and you started out making cups of tea as a runner, which is absolutely amazing. And another question from Bishop Justice School was, what would you go back and tell yourself at age 15?
Oh, I would definitely remind myself that the time I spent with my friends worrying about colleges and subjects and grades was not worth it, and so not to stress about that, and as long as I did the best I could, that I would be okay. One thing I would definitely tell myself is, it's interesting that when my grades did come through, I was always just under the first. So I'd got a 2-1 for my degree, or I'd get a B+ or an A-. And I thought, God, if I'd have worked just that little bit harder, I would have actually got those top grades. And I think sometimes we don't believe in how good we can be. And it's just about going, I can do this. And I've really learned as I've grown older that, you know, when they say in yoga classes, put something out into the universe and the universe brings that back. I think when I was younger, I used to feed a lot of negative thoughts, because when you're a student, you know, people gossip, they have friendship groups, and you can get quite negative. But the more negativity you put out there, the more negativity comes back to you. Where actually, the more positivity you put out there, if you say, I can do this, I am going to get that, I am going to, you know, telling yourself that you will usually means that you will. And it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. So I think as a 15-year-old, I'd often say what my drama teacher told me, which was, people like me don't work in places like that, or why should you be able to afford that thing? Or, you know, when you come from a background like mine, often people think that you shouldn't afford fancy, luxurious goods. And actually, that is an ingrained way of thinking, because actually, the one thing that all young people, actually, this is what I would tell my 15-year-old self. I would say, remember to value your financial worth. As we get older and we start in our 20s to get our first jobs, we are so thankful to have a job that sometimes we'll accept things on minimum wage and 0 hours contracts. And that's great. I did all of that. I worked for free loads in my first 10 years, and I still do today. If I think it's going to teach me something, or it's going to be a great next step to something, I'll do it. But what I will say is, know your worth. Once you are skilled up and you can offer something of value, there's nothing wrong with charging a good daily rate for your worth. And I think a lot of people from working class backgrounds, we think, oh my God, I can only charge 300 quid a day. And then you speak to someone else and they go, oh no, your minimum rate should be £500 a day. And you go, what? Can I charge 500? And then someone else says, well, if you're doing one session, you could charge £2,000 a day. And you go, whoa, mind blown. Because you don't get taught that as a young working class person. But guess what? There are people going to some very fancy universities out there who get told that they are going to rule the world one day and they can charge that much money. So I would tell my 15-year-old self to value what I was worth.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much. And one last question from our students. What can I do now to prepare me for this kind of career?
You know, get involved with everything. If there is a local party in the park or a village fete happening on your local green where you can help with microphones and staging and setting, if there is a runner's job at a local radio or hospital radio, if there is a entry-level job at, I mean, honestly, everywhere helps. Just get involved with things. Any job, you know, being a waiter or a waitress, a bartender, a park role, whatever, just get work out there, because we don't mind what it is. If your CV looks like you have got some essential basic skills, you know, I always call them hard skills and soft skills. So for example, in television, hard skills are things like shooting a camera, editing content, which is what all of you already probably do on Instagram and TikTok and Snapchat. So you've got those hard skills. Things like creating a call sheet, making a budget, they're all hard skills. But soft skills are the ones that you're going to learn when you're a bartender or working at the local park. So things like body language and open body language. You know, when people see people sitting there with crossed arms, slouched down, you might just be relaxed and taking it in, but your body language doesn't suggest that. It suggests that you're not interested and you're a bit hostile. So think about open body language, think about public speaking, think about being confident and resilient and being punctual and responsible, because I have seen young people like you who are excellent. You know, they've got thousands, some have got millions of fans on YouTube, so they've got great hard skills and they've got fans. But then when it comes to actually having soft skills, being punctual, reliable, polite, respectful, they have no soft skills. So you've got to manage your hard skills as well as soft skills. I've seen young people who have been so talented who have lost out on a career that could have made them millions because they didn't have the right attitude. So I would say, skill up, get out there. If there are any programs and courses or mentorships, do them, get involved. I mean, I still do them. You know, I'm in my industry and career, and if there are any programs that I see online that say, you know, get yourself a mentor or learn how to be on a board or whatever, they're all free programs, and I sign up for all of them because all of them are another nugget on my CV that adds another naught to my salary at the end of the year.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Jasmine. That's incredibly useful, and absolutely skill up and continue to learn new skills that, as you said, could make you even more money.
Yeah. So, and Christabel, can I also say, top tips for success are, don't think social media is an evil thing, right? If you follow the right people, you can use social media to follow all your interests. You can use social media to connect with positive people and content. You can build 360 relationships on social media with professionals. And I always say to young people, create your own board of directors or mentors so that there is always a handful of people that you can ask for advice. And also remember that you end up being the average of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. So look around you. When you hang out at school or at home or at the weekend and evenings, are the 5 people that you spend the most time with positive? Are they going to influence your life positively, or are they going to be negative? And that all spirals into your future. So create your own mentor board, use social media for positive and good, and I promise you, anything is possible.
Thank you so much, Jasmine. That's all we have time for today. Do you have any final comments for our students?
I would say, think about your personality because when you work in the media, you don't have to be who I am. I am quite an extrovert. I love talking. I love speaking to people. I'm curious. Not everyone in the media has a personality like me. You can be an introvert and be quite shy. You might be great at maths and budgets and like organising people and accounting. So you might be a production manager. You might be someone who loves social media, but nothing in front of a TV studio, and you like sitting behind a computer. That might mean that you are the social media creator and content planner for the X Factor. There are roles in media for everyone with any type of a background and any personality. So don't think you have to be a one size fits all. It really is a really exciting place to work.